lot of what we mentioned here leads into our next topic, which is good teacher strategies and things like getting to know your students, icebreakers, think, pair, share, those kinds of things. So I know that our folks here have a lot of really good strategies that they use in the classroom. So I don't know if we just want to go in order, if we had something to share on that. Shannon, I want to jump in.
One of my strategies ties right into what we're already talking about, which is getting people to cooperate and turn into a cohort, because once they're a close-knit group, learning goes so much faster. Always have people who will translate real quickly information that somebody who's struggling with English more than they are, or who I don't even have to correct some people's pronunciation, because one of the other students who knows them really well will start correcting their pronunciation right away. But I have consistently, especially after sitting in on this group, worked at being up front less and less. Started out by just walking around the room and trying to listen to the conversations. One thing I did to try to pull people into being willing to work together, like I was a senior citizen who almost never wanted to work with anybody else. So I would sit down right next to her, but I'd include one other person. And the only drawback I found was that I can't walk around and listen to the other conversations. But that got her used to working in a group of three. And then eventually she was a little more willing to go into just two people working. And then coming back from break, one of my strategies was to just get conversation going. That practices the language, practices pronunciation, and builds the cohort. So we just talked about what you do during the break, what are the traditions in your country, which of those did you bring over and practice here. And then the best part was, instead of just walking around, it was a really small group, only 6 that first day. So I just sat down and we made a circle. And then it kind of forces everybody to use whatever English they have, rather than being able to get away with only using English when I'm next to the two of them. Because I'm thinking Jerome, all of them speak Spanish. So that's one of my strategies.
Shannon also sets the mood in his classroom from the second you walk in, and I really honestly believe that it works, because it works for me when I go to his classroom to visit. He has classical music playing when they arrive, and it's almost like you can hear them all just take a relaxing breath. Like, okay, and he does that consistently, and it sets the tone. It's relaxing in his classroom when you sit down. And I've started doing that when I remember. But yeah, I mean, that to me sets and he greets them at the door, just like Chad was talking about. Shannon greets them at the door and they walk in and there's soothing music playing. And that's one of his strongest strategies, I think. Seems like one of the easiest things you can do, but it works with his students. A lot of them have just come from work, they've had a stressful day, and that music just mellows them out.
You have a book in front of you.
I do. I've been trying to up my game again. I guess that's a good way to put it. To come in and to be working with adults, and I wasn't wanting to teach down. I didn't want them to feel like I thought they were first graders, which I'm very comfortable with. And yet finding that by trying not to be insulting, trying not to teach down, I was missing things they really needed to be taught, and going back and trying to incorporate that now, because I feel like they missed out on so many things. I'm also making sure that I don't make assumptions anymore. So even if I'm pretty sure they're gonna understand it, like clocks, they blew through clocks like zip. I was so excited I had other things set up because they didn't need clocks. But because they were so good at clocks, I could use those mixed in with icebreakers, because they already, I can do this one, this one, and this one. They do those first, and then they could go back and do the other things that maybe were a little bit more challenging. One of the bigger challenges I had that I didn't think would be a big problem for students, adult students, was that we don't write in our book. They probably have more trouble remembering that than anything else, and than any children I've ever taught. And so, just out of of necessity, I started using Post-it notes in my books to make sure I didn't forget and scribble something and have to erase it. And so they saw me doing that one day, and it dawned on me, why am I not passing these out? So of course, you know, one of my favorite stars, the dollar star, the $50 star. And I went and I got every gaudy glow in the dark, day glow, color Post-it note they had available. Some were huge, some were little tiny, some were in strips, and we use those in our books now. And it's fun because of the colors, and everybody chooses their own colors, and you'd be surprised who chooses the purple and the pink. Yeah, because it wasn't who I would have assumed. But they do it very well. And then Jocelyn, tell them what you do, because she just told me right after lunch, and I'm like, yeah, I wish I would have thought of that.
So you know the page, the binder protector, the clear protectors? So I use those with dry erase markers, which is what Heather has right here, it looks like.
Well, in this one, Melissa Mulray used to do this, if you remember Melissa, she just takes one of the old school overhead things, and they use the binder clip and clip it to the book, and then they can write in the
Yeah.
book.
So that's what I do, and so I use, so I have literacy,
Tonight I'm going to the store.
and so I have the big lined paper because I work on writing and letters. And so it's really hard, even with the wide ruled paper that, you know, you use like middle school, it's really hard to still write letters with that. So I use like, you know, the kindergarten, the one that has like three huge spaces, and I throw that in there, and so that's what they do when we do our reading comprehension portion of class, when they answer their questions, they write on that. And so I put that in there, so they each have their own little sleeve, and they each have their own little dry erase marker, and they each write their answer.
And they can choose their color, so
Yeah.
they're comfortable with that too. And it's,
And
It's just more
we
fun.
do have, as far as I know, last I checked, we still had a bunch of these things in the office. We checked with Chelsea.
These are sure not
She
being
keeps-
used for overheads
No,
anymore.
they sure aren't. And somewhere floating around the ELA stuff, we have some write-on, wipe-off sentence strips. Again, in an effort to not be, not adult appropriate, sometimes I think we forget that it's okay to use the big paper when they're learning how to write.
exactly.
These are people who are learning how to write letters in English, and they aren't gonna be able to do it on college ruled paper, especially if they had no experience in school as in their former country. I mean, we were just chatting informally at lunchtime about the fact that we're so worried about being appropriate that when we've got a student who comes to Jocelyn who has never been to school, period, they can't write small because they don't have the fine motor skills to do it.
Right.
So we need to take what they need and place that at a priority over whether or not we're being politically correct. And that's hard, that's a fine line.
And I also wanna jump in here with an editorial note. Please, 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 and I know particularly for you folks coming out of public schools, you're maybe used to providing supplies for your own classroom, and I totally appreciate that. But please, if you buy something for your classroom, if you buy supplies, turn those in to me so I can reimburse you. I fully acknowledge that we don't pay you what you're worth, I can't, that's federal money, and there's limits to that. But I do wanna be able to reimburse you, I don't want this to be a volunteer position and you're volunteering, if you will, your money as well. So if you do wind up buying the page protectors or the Post-it notes or these types of things, please submit those so I can reimburse you for those supplies. Again, put me on there if you don't mind.
No, that's
Because I know Christine has,
Okay, I was just gonna, comment on that, you can buy the, you know, some of you are worried, well, how am I gonna get a page protector over a page in the workbook or a book? You can buy the ones that are side-loaded, they open at the side. And so, I have seen those, I don't know where they was.
So they're like the, you know, back in the
For
day when you
photos.
turned in your, when you had to have your report, you have your report protectors, they have that awesome little thingy, little plastic thingy, you can get those for that.
Yeah.
It was like back in the day when you had to
Thingy,
turn in
the
reports.
thingy.
Back in your day, yeah. Watch it, sister.
Well, my, research was on, modeling, which I often did, with second graders, and, you know, one of the things I wanna caution you, which I'm sure that you already know, but don't assume your students know what to do just because they're adults. You know, with little kids, it's easy, cause you think, oh, they don't know this, so I'm teaching Don't assume that with adults. And so modeling is important. It opens the door for metacognition, and if they see you doing it, then they're gonna be more comfortable doing it too. It says interactive modeling can be used by any adult anywhere at any time of the year. I do a question at the beginning of class that the students answer, and I'll go first. Say, well, let me go first and I'll answer that, and then, you know, I'll give my opinion or whatever the question is. And then they feel more comfortable than jumping in with that. Research shows that when we teach in this way, with modeling, students achieve greater, faster, and longer lasting success in meeting expectations and mastering skills. And I know that probably a lot of you have done modeling, and the new modeling is called interactive modeling. And it's where you involve the students. You're creating a clear, positive mental image of what is expected, but you're asking them to do the noticing. You're not gonna say, well, notice that I've done this, or notice I've done that. You say, what did you notice in what I was doing? That way they're engaged and they're remembering more because they're doing along with that. It builds their powers of observation and their analysis and communication skills. In addition, because they get immediate practice, they gain quicker expertise and stronger mastery of the procedure or skill being taught. And some of the ways that you can use modeling for math formulas, math strategies, reading strategies such as WISH, KWL, SQ3R, whatever, you know, acronym you've learned to use. Writing an essay, maybe using a template and showing them the steps. Using adjectives and adverbs in writing. Reading a textbook. We all have that poster in our rooms that says, this is the process for reading a textbook. You know, that needs to be modeled, because you don't just say, well, here's the process, and they all stare at you like, what do I do with it, you know? So, completing homework, they need to know. When I first started, I just assumed that they knew how to do their homework, and there were some that were writing the questions down, writing the heading, you know, writing all the stuff and not just putting down the answers. And so then they said, well, gosh, this is taking me forever and I'm using so much paper. And I said, oh, you shouldn't be doing that. You know, oh, I shouldn't. So then after that, I modeled how to do the homework, and that made it a whole lot easier for a lot of people. You can also use it for graphic organization, and many more. So modeling is, it's a good investment to make. It makes things go easier in the long run. It's just like with starting groups. You've modeled how you want them to do it, or they figured out, you know, in a group process, what they should be noticing, what they should be doing, and then I think things just come easier with that. So.
I'm gonna jump over to Lisa, because I think she has some good classroom strategies.
So I'm gonna talk about icebreakers, openers, warm-ups. So I want you to picture like my Math 40 class. It starts at 8:30 in the morning. My garbage can is full of energy drinks by the time we're done. I've never seen so many of them. Anyway, when they get there, I read an article about this, and it just mentioned, if I just went out to my car on a day that it's 0 degrees outside, start it up and just full on accelerate, I'm not doing anything great for my car. If I decide to go for a run and I don't stretch or anything beforehand, I'm not gonna run. You know, this is not gonna go well. So why do we expect people to come into our classroom, they have dropped everything that they've been doing, and just totally switch gears and be ready to just start factoring polynomials? Let's go. Okay? So icebreakers or warm-ups are so important to get them to switch over and get that math brain or whatever you're teaching in gear and engaged, so that they aren't just going from 0 to 10, just we're there. They need that time to just start engaging in what we're gonna be teaching. I use them a lot to review what we've done the day before. That's probably my primary purpose. The people that come in early. This last block, I had one guy who would come in like 15, 20 minutes early. So we can either stare at each other and he can watch me get everything ready, or I can actually have something for him to work on, which is much more comfortable for me. So it is nice to give them something so they're not just wasting their time. And then the other thing is we have so much like paperwork kind of stuff we need to take care of. By giving them an icebreaker that they can be working on for a couple of minutes, it buys me time that I can take care of. You weren't here last time, this is what you missed. Where's your homework? Have you signed in? All of those just little administrative things. So I typically, they know that when they walk in the door, they sign in. Right next door to it is a whatever icebreaker I have for them. Typically I use math minutes. They're supposed to actually be accomplished in 1 minute. None of my class can do them in 1 minute, but we're working on that. It's 10 questions. They range from super easy questions to a little bit more difficult. I still like to put the really easy ones in there because you just don't know what they don't know or what they don't remember. One of my very highest Math 30 girls last time, we got to like adding decimal numbers, and she's like, I don't know how to do that. But we figured it out just because I had my little math minute there. We spent 3 minutes going over it, and she's like, oh, okay, got it again. We don't have to invest a whole lot of time on them. Math minutes are great, 10 questions, and then we always at the end of them, you know, who got 100s today? And they always so excited if they got one of those 100s. So if you like those or want to use those if you're one of the math teachers, those are in the lesson plans, or I can send you a link to them.
And for language, we do have floating around the program some stuff called drops in the bucket, as well as some old school like DOL, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and you can use 1 or 2. So we do have some of those things floating about. There's also, of course, a plethora of things online that you can find.
And I have the math drop in the bucket. So.
Oh, it's on that too.
So I do a song before class. That's what I do. And it was hilarious because I was pregnant at the time, and so they thought it was funny seeing me do all these crazy things. But I can sing it to you guys if you guys wanted my icebreaker with me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So it's my hello song. So hello.
Hello.
How are you?
How are you?
And so this is when I do like an emotion. So I'm incorporating greeting because I teach literacy. So I'm incorporating greeting, I'm incorporating how to converse, and I'm incorporating emotions. So their favorite was mad. They like seeing my very pregnant belly do this, okay? So just envision my very massive belly do this, okay? So I'd be, I'm mad, mad, mad. And then they would have to go, I'm mad, mad, mad. And then that was my icebreaker. Just because they enjoyed it. But it could be something as easy as that. Like it doesn't have to be something like super duper elaborate. And then I usually incorporate something that they did something really like hard last class that they didn't have under. That by the end of class they got it, but then it's kind of that refresher before we delve into more things.
So Terrell is also on this panel. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here today because she wasn't feeling well, but she did send me an email. She does some things with reading. And that's not it.
Should we sit down?
Not yet. You don't have to. I'm just gonna have you read through this, and I know this isn't showing up very well. It's actually WISH, the WISH reading strategy, and she goes through this part. Unfortunately, it's white on white here. I'm not familiar with WISH. I'll let you read through that, and then we can have you explain. I don't know. I know somebody else just mentioned it, the WISH strategy.
Yeah, I don't know it. I only
Okay.
mentioned it because she had talked about it.
Read it out loud.
Yes, just as an example.
But I know, but we can give you that resource. I know particularly for her to, she teaches language arts over in Burley. She encourages them to read nonfiction. And it's almost like what, if you have kids now or had kids in the public school, you know, you had to go home and read 20 minutes every day. That certainly benefits our adult students as well. And again, anything. Nonfiction is preferable because as we're trying to get them onto a college level class, they're going to be reading academic material. You know, novels are fine. I know in Heather's and Maryland's LA 50 class, they do a lot of novel reading. Any reading helps. It's just, you know, practice makes perfect. So we'll get some more clarification on these kinds of things, but this is, just want to throw in that this is for material.
And if you Google wish strategy for reading online, it'll explain a little bit more about it. It comes down to informational text versus fictional reading and how different it is, and it just stands for words, ideas, structure, and headings. So it's one I'm sort of familiar with, but I've never really used it, but a lot of people really like it.